I might start tuning in a little bit more. But if one can't get people to tune in for Eddie Alvarez and Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson, what the hell is going to go on here? I don't know. We have UFC Fight Night Rochester this weekend, and there are some interesting names on this show. But let's go ahead and go through the betting odds of this, starting with the bottom. Julio Arce, a minus 570. Julian Erosa, a plus 435. That is an amazing line. Zach Cummings, a plus 135. Trevin Giles, a minus 155. You have Mikel Pereira, who is known as the Lion Salt guy. He did a lion salt off of a cage overseas. He's a plus 215 rather. Danny Roberts, a minus 255. You have Desmond Green, a minus 550. Charles Jourdain, a plus 425. Grant Dawson, plus 125. Mike Trezano, minus 145. Austin Hubbard, who we interviewed over on the site, a plus 360. Davi Ramos, a minus 450. Is there anybody among these that you're particularly looking forward to seeing fight? There are so many shows, Joe, where we see close lines. This ain't one of them. There's a lot of lopsided betting odds on this show. I got 5 on it. It's going to be tough this week.
Yeah, I just want to see how Desmond Green performs against Jourdain, only because he's coming off that win versus Ross Pearson, pretty dominant. And he said he really wanted to be on this card here. So now you're on the card. Now you're here. Now you're basically in your hometown. Now you're going to feel the pressure of competing on your home soil. A lot of guys, Rich Franklin told me, George St. Pierre told me, a lot of guys that have competed, and girls that have competed at home, pretty much on their home turf, sleeping in their own bed, although most promoters are smart and saying you can't sleep in your own bed, you are staying in the hotel. But there's a lot of pressure because everybody and their sister, their brother, their cousin, if you once fed their fish, want tickets. A lot of headaches. So we'll see how Desmond Green handles that. He's a massive favorite right here. I think it's a little too much, but that's the one name that I'm paying very, very close attention to. W. Ramos, obviously, I think is going to put on a hell of a performance. But other than that, of the names that you mentioned, and Danny Roberts, I want to see how he does against Pereira.
Yeah, Pereira is the one that I'm looking at. I'm looking at Arce as well, but you then get a couple of names that are familiar. Ed Herman, a plus 200. Patrick Cummins, a minus 240. This seems to me like a let's get Patrick Cummins a win fight.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. I mean, Herman's obviously will slow down drastically. So,
yeah, Cummins has lost 2 in a row. Herman has lost 3 in a row, 4 of his last 5. Herman doesn't have a win since 2016. He has 1 win in the last 5 years. Woo! Woo! I was at his fight 2 wins ago, and that was 5 years ago. Unbelievable. I have Patrick Cummins winning this one. But then you get into some of the more highlighted fights, and there aren't names outside of the main event that jump off the page. But there are some good names. Charles Oliveira, a minus 365. Nik Lentz, a plus 305. I am not putting 5 on Nik Lentz. I think that Charles Oliveira is looking really, really good these days, and I'm looking for him to probably run away with this fight. I think that we finally got him to stop talking about 145. I hope, because this isn't the 22, 23-year-old anymore. This is the 29-year-old that needs to make the most of his prime years, Joe. He's won 4 in a row, all by submission within 2 rounds. He's won 4 or 5. The only person to beat him since returning to lightweight is Paul Felder. And as we say, that happens.
Yeah. Very
excited to see Charles Oliveira fight because he is an emerging, underrated name at lightweight.
I'm not always going to be convinced with Charles Oliveira, although his recent run is absolutely slick, super sick, super slick. He wants to keep adding to that, submission record, I'm sure. But Nik Lentz, the carny, isn't easy to put away. I know you're not the biggest fan of Nik Lentz. Not many people are with his political views.
I don't want to say that. It's just I thought it was hilarious years ago when people were accusing Conor McGregor of running from Nik Lentz.
Yeah, of course.
That's still hilarious.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor, no disrespect to Nik Lentz. Nik Lentz is a good fighter. Won 3 of 4. I think he's like 5-2 in his last 7. He can get it done, man. But I mean, he's beaten some good fighters too. Gray Maynard, Will Brooks, Diego Nunez back when people thought that Diego Nunez was something. Tyson Griffin when people thought he was something. Like, he's got some good wins and he's really experienced. I just think that he's going to lose to Charles Oliveira.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a bit. I mean, if you could suck the will to win out of Oliveira to take away his options, pound him away. He has shown a propensity sometimes to be like, oh man, what do I do here? What do I do here? What do I do here? And then sort of fade away. But if Oliveira gets a hold of Lentz early and Lentz isn't all bloody and slippery, could get real fun to watch this guy put a submission on.
There's a prelim headliner that I think is just fascinating. Aspen Ladd, a prospect at the UFC, wants to do great things. She's 7-0 as a pro, just beat Tanya Evander. That's a hell of a win. Beat Lena Landsberg. Quite frankly, you can throw her in the featherweight rankings and she qualifies. She's beaten 2 cyborg victims.
You're right.
She was 8-1 as an amateur. That one loss, Joe, Cynthia Calvillo. I mean, hey, that's why I put more stock into women's amateur fights. There aren't as many women, and a lot of times you're going to run into people who you see on the pro circuit a lot more. And quite frankly, a lot of the people you beat in your first or second pro fight are as good as some of the ones you're beating in your amateur fights. That's just a sad reality right now. She's beaten Amanda Cooper, Lena Landsberg. She's beaten Sajara Eubanks before.
Yeah.
Is she going to do it again with Sajara Eubanks up a weight division after she's had this resurgence? Sajara went 3-0 on The Ultimate Fighter. She's beaten Lauren Murphy. She's beaten Roxanne Modafferi. But now they're doing this at, I believe this is a bantamweight fight. Will Eubanks avenge that loss? It's a win-win for the UFC, I think.
Yeah, definitely. 100% it is. I mean, will she avenge that loss? I mean, the fact that she signed on the dotted line to fight her again leads me to believe, yeah, you know what? I'm getting back on that horse. Let's do this. Let's fight. I'm not afraid of her. What happened. It was, that one obviously went to a decision, but Aspen Ladd's no joke. She's pulling off some pretty slick wins. And I think you're right that the fact that this is the main event of the prelims drive people to the main card. I think it's going to be a fantastic fight. I'm still leaning towards Aspen Ladd in this one, though.
She is a massive favorite, a -300, Eubanks at +250. And this is a woman who was supposed to, and Eubanks was supposed to compete for a UFC title. Thankfully, she didn't. I'm all for a title being decided on The Ultimate Fighter, but I want the quality of fighters to be up there, and that just wasn't. Speaking of divisions that are in flux, Megan Anderson, a -150, Felicia Spencer, a +130. I find it very ironic and a little bit funny that when Cyborg loses the featherweight title, that the featherweight division is probably in the best shape that it has ever been in. And I mean in the history of women's 145-pound fighting. Amanda Nunes, the champion. Chris Cyborg's out there. You have Felicia Spencer. You have Megan Anderson. You have Macy Chiasson, who's there. And quite frankly, if you want to throw Betch Kohea into a 145 fight, I'm not going to hate on that. As much as I think that
I never thought of that.
Yeah, if she's missing weight by that much, and you want her against a Felicia Spencer or a Megan Anderson next time out, hey, okay, sure. But you also have people like Tanya Evander who have competed there. You have Holly Holm who has competed there. You have Lena Landsberg, a top 15 fighter who has competed there. Caitlin Vieira could probably compete there. So there's a lot of hypotheticals as it relates to women's 145. But I'm glad to some degree that they're not just pulling the plug on it because of what happened, because they have a couple of names in Felicia Spencer and Megan Anderson who can fight. How do you see this one going?
Well, I mean, in terms of Felicia Spencer, I mean, she's undefeated. She's 6-0. Confidence will likely be at an all-time high. But Megan Anderson's just an absolute destroyer. I mean, let's be honest. I know what happened in that Katzengano fight. People were bitching and complaining. It was a kick that was thrown. Silence. Okay. Kick was thrown, caught the eye, is what it is. Do I want to see the rematch? Yeah. Let's run it back. But it's not going to happen right now. So she's 9-3. Let's see what happens now when she takes on an undefeated fighter, full of confidence, coming from Invicta. I think it's a fantastic fight. It's going to open up a lot of eyes, no pun intended, to the winner of this one here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this fight. This main card, really from the top prelim on, I'm just like, damn, this is going to be fun. Neil Magny, a +425 underdog against Vicente Luque, who, very good, but it's hard for me to put those odds. If you put Neil Magny in there with almost anybody, it's hard for me to accept those odds. He's a guy that can get it done against almost anybody, but they're not giving him much of a chance here. How much of a chance are you giving him? We did speak to him over at Fightful.com.
I think there's been a change. I think Magny actually had to withdraw from this fight.
Oh, okay.
He's no longer competing, so they are trying to find a replacement for Luque, and we're talking like super short notice. So I don't even think.
Well, hey, that's good because I moved his interview back this week. Now I can just take it off the docket.
So yeah.
So my apologies there as Magny is out. It's been a wild week with WWE in the UK. But beyond that, still, I think that line was ridiculous. And I base all these betting odds. I go to Best Fight Odds, which still has it listed. I'm surprised that Antonio Carlos Jr. at minus 185 is that close against Ian Heinisch at plus 160. Because Shoeface, quite frankly, is a wrecking machine, man.
Yeah.
He's very good. And Ian Heinisch, also very good. And Ian Heinisch has done some things. He beat Cesar Ferrara. He beat, I think, Sumter on Contender Series. But when you have the resume of Shoeface, now granted, he hasn't fought in a year, and it was impossible for him to get in the cage over the past year. He had 3 fights canceled. Jack Marshman, Eric Spicely, Marvin Vettori. Like, he has won, I think, 5 in a row in the UFC. I've got Shoeface running away with this one as well.
I do too. I think he's number 12 right now as of, they haven't updated the rankings just yet. But Shoeface can go on a run here, right? I mean, I'm seeing a Shoeface Weidman fight coming up soon. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think they're gonna match those two up real soon. I think Costa did get matchup. Yeah, Costa got Romero, right? They're saying that's gonna happen, except for Sean Ross Sapp, who doesn't believe it's gonna happen.
Yeah, that's on the Cormier Miocic card, allegedly.
Right? But I think Shoeface, I don't want to look past his opponent right now, but I think Shoeface emerges victorious for sure.
Main event, Kevin Lee, minus 105. Rafael Dos Anjos saying minus 115. This is what we've waited to see. Kevin Lee at 170, and it's got to be a motivated Kevin Lee. I hate that Kevin Lee is in BJ Penn territory without the accolades. Is he going to be motivated? Because there are question marks about his motivation against Iaquinta. Yeah. There were question marks about his health against Tony Ferguson. I'm still of the belief that if Kevin Lee doesn't have staff going into that fight, he's probably UFC lightweight champion. And then who knows how things went, because he started to perform poorly after that. He missed weight after that. He is the primary case for a 165-pound division. And if Conor McGregor would fight, they're probably making a 165-pound division.
Yeah.
Does he get it done against Rafael Dos Anjos, who obviously the UFC thinks a lot of? But to me, Dos Anjos, if he loses this, he also loses that luster of, well, okay, this puts you in the mix. Because while a loss to Kevin Lee, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington, and a couple earlier wins to Ferguson, Alvarez, Nurmagomedov, hey, no sweat there. You got to win some fights here and there, Joe.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. You can't be coming into a main event. One would consider, Rafael Dos Anjos pretty lucky to be in a main event he's on a 2-fight losing streak, right? So he's in a main event. Like I said, the UFC holds him on high regard, but he did lose to Colby Covington and Kamaru Usman back-to-back. So he also defeated Robbie Lawler in a fantastic performance. Then on the flip side, okay, listen, we're putting a lot of stock in you, Rafael. You better do good in this fight here. Then you got Kevin Lee, like you said, that whole Tony Ferguson staph infection thing. He comes back and busts up Edson Barbosa in the 5th round.
We have somebody that says, stop it. Kevin wasn't going to beat Tony. I'm like, Lando Venata almost beat Tony. Yeah. Tony isn't like some unstoppable wrecking machine.
Some people just don't. Either they didn't watch the fight or they got short-term memories.
I mean, that is unbelievable. I'm not saying that he would have beaten Tony, but he damn well could have. And did things in that fight that almost had the win secured for him anyway.
Yeah. So just for me, for Kevin Lee against Iaquinta, something was up. You talk about the motivation. It was a 25-minute fight. Which Kevin Lee is going to show up? So it's a lot of questions heading into this matchup here, more than any other on this card, only because which guy shows up? Is it the vintage fighter for both of them, or we're seeing a trend here, right?